I want to talk about and do a follow-up on a tragic incident that happened in April 2023 last year, and I did do a video on that. But basically, just a few weeks ago, May 17th, 2024, Mr. George Walters, a former volunteer on the church safety security team, was just sentenced to 10 years in prison for unnecessarily shooting and killing a Mr. James Donald. So what happened, just to quickly summarize, Donald had been asked to leave the church. I see and find nothing that indicates that he was violent or threatening violence. He was just causing some type of disturbance to the point where some people felt uncomfortable enough that he was asked to leave, and he was escorted out of the building. Mr. Donald walks out to his car in the parking lot, decides that he's got something else to say, or just anyway, turns around, comes back, tries to come back into the building. But Mr. George Walters, unfortunately, who also coincidentally at the time was a reserve deputy, but he was not on duty as a deputy at the time, but he decides to go out there and intercept Donald out in the walkway approaching the church, outside of the church building. For whatever reason, Walters let himself become so frustrated, so offended, that a loud verbal argument ensued, and he punches Donald in the face, knocking him down. Donald gets up and runs away to the parking lot to get away, but Walter chases him, pulls out his gun, shoots Donald once in the back. Donald continues to run, collapses. Walter catches up to him and viciously kicks him in the head. And the autopsy shows that the kick was so bad that the brain bleed and the injury probably would have been fatal by itself. So Donald dies, and now Mr. Walters, just last week, May 17th, his sentence to 10 years in prison. And the whole situation absolutely, positively could have been avoided, especially with a little bit of ministry mindset. Folks, there is this mantra out there, mantra, this saying out there. And you hear this and you see this a lot if you're involved in the church safety security universe. Don't let this person back in the church. Don't let this person back in the church. Don't let him in. But no one talks about what does that actually look like and sound like? How do you keep someone from coming in? Does that include up to and include lethal force? Every situation is different, folks. Now, this is how this situation could have played out. As Donald starts coming back in, Walter sees him coming back in after escorting him out, or knowing that he was escorted out. He does say that he heard on the radio to check on an individual who had been escorted out because he was trying to get back in. Go back out there and go, "Hey, Donald, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? We just asked you to leave. We feel uncomfortable with your behavior, things you're doing, your things you're saying, whatever." Engage in conversation. Everyone wants to feel validated, affirmed, and heard. Let Donald say his piece. At least he's outside of the building. You're just engaging with him out on the walkway. Let him feel heard. Let him feel validated and affirmed. Just let him vent. How many times do we know, have we ever dealt with a situation, or us ourselves have been in a situation where we just need to vent? Let this person vent. Donald could have just spent another 15, 20, 30 minutes venting. And Walters could have just stood there, nodded his head. "Yeah, no, I get it, man, but we just can't let you in. Come back next week." You don't have to be so heavy-handed. Chances are very, very good that Donald would have vented, said his piece, walked away. Come back next weekend. But folks, when you allow yourself to become frustrated, impatient, or offended like Walters did, you end up dramatically, sometimes exponentially, doing and saying things you can't come back from. And Walters got himself so worked up that he initiated physical violence against Donald, punching him in the face. And I remind you, all the surveillance videos shows that Walters was the aggressor the entire time. So Walters, Mr. Church Safety Security Volunteer, Mr. Reserve Deputy, punches this man needlessly, who falls down and then tries to run away. He's done. He doesn't want to engage Walters. He's leaving, which is what the church wanted him to do in the first place. But Walters gives himself tunnel vision, and he's so consumed that he chases after Donald and shoots him in the back. And then when, Donald continues to run and falls down, Walters chases up to him and kicks him in the head, trying to kick a field goal. Again, the injury so bad, the autopsy, the medical examiner said it probably would have been fatal by itself. Wow. We could have engaged in a conversation on the walkway, your partner watching you from inside the building, calling it out if they need to, coming in to rescue you if they need to, or help out if they need to. But this whole situation could have ended verbally on the walkway just outside the church building. Folks, don't let yourself become so offended, so frustrated, so impatient that you end up saying or doing something that escalates the situation. If you are in contact with someone who does and is pushing your buttons, and you will find yourself in those situations, recognize, have the self-discipline and the situational awareness to recognize, okay, I need to break contact and let my colleague, my partner take over the conversation while you step away, take a couple deep breaths, collect yourself, and either re-engage if necessary, or just let your friend handle it. Again, there's no law, rule, regulation, or policies that says you must, you shall, you will engage with someone. But back to this situation. Mr. Walters now going to prison for 10 years. There goes your family name, your reputation, your career. No more Christmases with family. I mean, bam, 10 years. That's a decade. No graduation parties, nothing but maybe being someone's bitch. And all you had to do was take a deep breath, adopt a ministering mindset, and recognize that as challenging as Mr. Donald may have been, he is still a child of God, and God still wants him redeemed and in the kingdom of heaven. And all you had to do was be patient, show some empathy and compassion to your fellow man, and just let him vent. Because again, I can find nothing that says that Donald was violent or threatening violence. Ministry mindset.